Jared here, and today I'm going to show you exactly how I like to make my pumpkin vines, jungle vines, whatever kind of vine that you want to make. I'll show you the technique that I've been using for 15, 16 years, something like that. I'm still playing around with it. I've seen a lot of good videos on YouTube, really good videos on how to make vines, but they're all a little bit different than the technique that I use. So I'll just share how I do it, and if that works for you, that's great. If not, hopefully just something that I've done in this video you can take away and start using it in your own projects. So I'm going to show both how to make standalone single ones and then how to do sort of what I call like a wet technique where I'm actually applying it to a surface. So I'll do it in two parts first, but in this same video we'll do the standalone ones first, and then I'll show you how I did the ones back there on the fence. So let's get started. The material that I'm going to be using for these vines is a type of creepy cloth, and I'm going to show a few different ones. This one you can get at most Dollar Tree stores. Not the one by me, because I bought it all up for the season, but you can see there's a nice lighter color creepy cloth, and it's similar to cheesecloth, but as you can see you can poke holes in it and sort of manipulate it a little bit better than cheesecloth. And then there's the brand right there, Creepy Cloth. I've seen it in two colors at Dollar Tree, the previous color and then this darker black color. That's all I've seen at Dollar Tree as far as the color selection. However, at Menards this year I was able to find this gray Creepy Cloth, and it's a little bit bigger bundle than the Dollar Tree stuff. And it was, I believe, only $2. And the Dollar Tree stuff is, I don't know, what is it, $1.25 now, something like that. But even better than those, I was able to find this wad on Amazon, and it was a huge amount. It was only $4. I'll put a link if I can find it in the description below. I want to say it was like a couple 100 feet worth for $4. In addition to the Creepy Cloth, you're going to need a large container, some acrylic paint, a stir stick, and then the main ingredient for this project, liquid latex. Now, I like to get my liquid latex from Fright Props, but I'm sure there are several sources on the internet that you can find. I'm going to begin the process by pouring a bunch of latex inside the container, and then I'm going to start coloring it with the acrylic paint. Now, I do recommend that you mix this up using latex. I don't recommend you use like interior latex paint or something like that. It doesn't quite turn out right. This purer or more heavy latex mixture really does the vines well. And as you can see here, I'm just kind of messing around with the coloring, adding different colors of the acrylic paint until I get a mix that I like. Now, you got to remember, because that latex is white, you got to add quite a bit of the dark paint if you're going for a darker color. Next, I'm going to be preparing the Creepy Cloth for vines. So what I like to do is cut off a chunk of the length first. So I'm going to be making mine 9 to 10 feet long, and then from there you can either cut it up the middle into sections, like I like to do thirds, and then start kind of like squishing it together to see approximately how thick these vines are going to be. You might want to play around with it a little bit to see exactly how much of that material you want to make into a vine. I don't suggest going too thick with this particular method. Once you want a little bit thicker vines, like say an inch in diameter, you're going to want to use a different technique that I can show in a later video. And I've got my Creepy Cloth all ready now. I got about 9 to 10 feet, as I said before, and then that's about the thickness that I'm looking to make the vine as I get ready for the next step. This next step is pretty messy, but what you're going to want to do is just kind of wad it up and throw it into your latex and paint mixture and smash the vine in. Make sure you're working in that latex into all the little nooks and crannies of the vine. So let's take a look at what we got here. You can see there, the latex covered vines. Notice my gloves. Like I said, it's very messy. Here's another look at this. Notice that what I'm doing is running the vine through my hand and squeezing out all the excess latex and paint. And this is also where you would twist the vine and kind of work it into the shape that you wanted. And then when you're done, I just hang it up on. Here's a look at all the vines that I've got drying after doing that method. You can see I like them real loose and stringy looking like that. but you don't have to make them that way. You can make them smooth, and I'll show that at the end because I do make a smooth one, but it's just a look at them before we move on to the next step. But yeah, look at that. Creepy. And then here's one I did with a little bit darker green, just to kind of show you the difference in how it looks when you mix the paint differently in with the latex. A nail. Alright, I've let my vines dry for about 24 hours. I'll take a look at them now, but look at that. Pretty flexible. Pretty good. Now you can leave those vines just as is, but what I'm going to do is an extra step, and I'm going to actually put a wash on them. So what I'm doing here is just taking some water and mixing it with a little bit of acrylic paint to water it down. I'm choosing black, but you could do any different kind of wash, and I'll show a few different ones. And then from there you just take and sort of brush it onto the vine. Now I made this one a little bit thinner with the not as much paint in it, so you don't have to wipe it off. You can actually just let it dry. Instead of brushing the mixture on, if you have a larger container, you can take and just dunk the entire vine in. And if you were doing a lot of them, that's how I would do it. I chose the brushing method for this video because I was kind of running low on the acrylic paint that I wanted. I wasn't going to have enough to make up a large batch of water. Here I'm thickening it up because I'm going to do a white. If you are going to do the brushing on versus just dumping it into a vat of the paint, then I would suggest make sure you put plastic down or a towel or something, because this stuff is really messy, and don't do it near anything that you like, because even just brushing it on light like this seems to spray paint everywhere. But you can see here I'm just putting a thick coat on, and then what I'll end up doing, there you go, see that? Just kind of showing you the difference. The one on the right was just brushed on. Now we'll just take it and wipe the excess off. You'll have to kind of do it to your liking. You can either wipe a ton off, or you can wipe very little off. And if you don't find that enough is coming out, you can use a damp rag and it'll take even more out. But well, while those vines are drying, we'll take a look at them later, but we're going to move on to the next technique, which is a technique I like to use to stick the vines to a surface and have them actually dry to it. It works out really well, but it is a bit sloppy, and there's a couple different little nuances about it. So you can see here, I've sort of already pre-cut a starting vine, and I'm just kind of sticking it in, working the paint and latex into the vine before I apply it to the surface. So here I've stuck the initial wet piece right there on those planks, and now I'm just kind of working the extra vine, kind of shaping it how I want, cutting it off there, trimming it, and wiping up the little slop that I got there from putting the vine down. Now I'm just taking actually the latex paint mixture in my fingers and working it in this way instead of dunking it in. And then I'm going to just kind of shape it. But look at that. Look at all that mess. And if you see how I've got the loose ends of the vine too, because you can then later, before it dries, cut more creepy cloth and then just kind of twist it into those loose ends, and you can't even tell that you've spliced two ends. But there you go. See, wiping it up. Now it would wipe up better if I was using like a washcloth that was really wet. I was using a paper towel that I barely got wet, so I could have done a little bit better job. Like I said, it is sloppy. It may not work for you. It is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I really like the end result. Here's a close-up look at the vine. I haven't worked it too much, but I like the thready, stringy, creepy look like that, and I'll show you later one that I did different. But you can really smash and work that and make it smoother than what you're seeing there. It's just, I like that particular look. And here I am continuing to just work in a little bit more vine, splicing it onto the loose threads that I've left and running some vine just over top of old vine. But if you look around, you can see I've cleaned up quite a bit of the slop, and you can get it even cleaner than that if you're a little bit more diligent. But I was not being as neat as I could have been or as clean. real close look at these. This is the vine that I just did the water brush on technique, the painted water. This is the one that was the thicker black water, and then I just sort of wiped some of it out. You can see a little bit of the difference. This is definitely easier to do. You don't feel like wiping it. And then this is just a brown finish. And then this, I just did a different green. So this is untouched. Let's see if we can... This is untouched. Just the solid color. And then this was like a lighter green wash. But if you didn't like any of the way that these look all stringy, you absolutely can make a smoother vine. So I did a real small one. And you can even get it smoother than this, to where the string, it doesn't look so stringy. It just takes a couple extra seconds when you're doing it to sort of pull on the strings and smooth stuff out. And here's a closer look at the finished product of the, I guess, the wet application technique, I would say, or the wet application. You can see those vines are on there really good. They're not coming off. So I enjoy doing it like that. It's easier to sort of get them to stick to whatever surface that you're going to use at a time. I don't have to worry about stapling them or using some other alternative method of attaching them to whatever. I especially like doing it around like Bucky skeletons or props, stuff like that. But as I stated earlier, the downside is it's really messy, but you know, a little wet washcloth takes care of that. This is just the loose ones you can put on. They're pretty easy to still move around and do whatever you want to do with them. You just have to fasten them afterwards. So hopefully you found this video interesting, or you found some technique that you were able to take away from it. It's not going to be everybody's preferred method of creating vines, but it's the one that I like the most. So hopefully it helps you with something. Thanks for watching.